Welcome, retail marketing executives, to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely challenge a basic, foundational tenet of marketing. For decades, the industry has operated on this assumption that we are simply selling clothes, accessories, or maybe at best a lifestyle. But the absolute latest psychological and behavioral data reveals something far more profound. We aren't just selling clothes, we're selling identity. We are literally selling cognitive states. And once you understand the actual science of how apparel physically alters your consumer's brain function, I promise you, you're going to rethink your entire approach to branding, product positioning, and even your store environments.
So, here is our roadmap for this executive briefing. We'll start with number 1, the psychology of dress. Then 2, the self-esteem trap. 3, enclothed cognition in action. 4, the power of environments. And finally, 5, shifting the consumer narrative.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the psychology of dress, selling identity.
To truly optimize your brand strategy, we really have to deeply understand the semiotics of dress. Think of clothing as a complex, unspoken language system. When a consumer puts on your garment, they're using it as a semiotic resource to signal 3 absolutely critical things: their societal position, their cultural affiliations, and their personal ideology. Historically, men's attire was often rooted in social class and pure functionality, right? While women's fashion evolved into this highly complex system of varying silhouettes and fabrics to communicate self-expression. Today, across the board for all consumers, what they wear is literally the loudest unspoken language they use to communicate exactly who they are to society.
Building on that, consumers use your products as tools for what expert Helen Perry calls impression management. They generally deploy 3 distinct strategies here. First up is authentic. That's presenting themselves exactly as they feel. Second is ideal, presenting an image of how they desperately wish to be seen. And third is tactical, presenting the image that's simply expected of them in a specific situation. Consumers rely heavily on these strategies because human brains form initial sensory impressions so instinctively and powerfully. So your brand isn't just fabric, it's the exact tool they are using to execute one of these 3 distinct social strategies.
Moving right along to section 2, the self-esteem trap, the danger of self-verification. The basic tenet of marketing generally assumes that everyone wants to dress for success, right? We assume consumers naturally use products to feel better about themselves. But a truly fascinating paper published in the Journal of Consumer Research introduces us to the concept of self-verification. This is the psychological drive for consumers to choose products that confirm their existing self-views. And here's the kicker, the real trap. If their self-view is pessimistic, they will actively seek out products that confirm that negativity.
This beautifully illustrates the trap that premium lines fall into every day. High self-esteem consumers are highly motivated to self-enhance, so naturally, they gravitate right toward your superior premium products. But low self-esteem consumers, they are motivated to self-verify. This means they will actively gravitate toward inferior products because those specific products validate their pessimistic self-views. It's wild. But if your marketing makes a consumer feel intimidated, there is no way they'll buy your premium product because it actually conflicts with their internal need for self-verification.
But here's the good news. The crucial point is that this preference for inferior goods is what researchers call a boundary condition. It completely disappears if you can just induce the consumer to view themselves as someone worthy of superior products. That propensity to choose the inferior option vanishes the absolute moment your marketing successfully elevates their self-esteem. Bottom line? You have to empower them before you can sell to them.
Okay, section 3, enclosed cognition and action, the scientific catalyst.
So how exactly do we physically shift that self-view once they engage with your apparel? This brings us to a groundbreaking psychological concept coined by Hajo Adam and Adam D. Galinsky called enclothed cognition. This theory proves that the clothes we put on our bodies literally alter our cognitive capacities. It's not just a feeling, it relies on 2 independent variables co-occurring: the physical experience of actually wearing the clothes and the symbolic meaning we attach to them.
To prove this, Adam and Galinsky ran a brilliantly simple experiment. Imagine 2 groups of undergraduate students. Both groups are given the exact same white lab coat to wear. But the researchers tell one group they're wearing a doctor's coat, which obviously symbolizes precision, care, and attentiveness. They tell the other group they're wearing a painter's coat, which symbolizes broader, less precise, maybe more chaotic artistic work. Same exact physical coat, completely different symbolic meaning.
Now, what is truly staggering about this experiment is the data. The researchers gave both groups a Stroop test to measure their selective attention.
The participants who merely believed they were wearing the doctor's coat made a whopping 50% fewer errors compared to those wearing normal clothes or the painter's coat. 50%. They didn't just feel smarter, their brains physically performed better simply because of the symbolic meaning of the garment touching their skin.
And this extends far beyond lab coats in a university basement. Studies from Yale and other top institutions back this up, showing that wearing upper-class business suits actually increases testosterone and dominance in negotiations. Putting on formal wear enhances a person's ability to engage in abstract, holistic thinking. Even uniforms completely dictate behavior. Wearing a Red Cross uniform has been shown to induce measurable pro-social and empathetic responses. You are literally altering your customers' hormones and cognitive pathways with the apparel you sell them. It's a real game changer.
Which brings us to Section 4. The power of environments. Situational norms. Because you see, the clothing alone isn't the whole picture. Environments are incredibly powerful because they trigger what sociologists call situational norms. These are basically mental representations of appropriate behavior that get automatically activated just by stepping into a specific physical space. They direct human behavior without the consumer even consciously realizing it's happening.
Look at the famous Silence of the Library study by Arts and Dijksterhuis. They demonstrated that merely having the goal to visit a library, just thinking about going, automatically caused participants to mentally access the concept of silence and, consequently, to speak more softly. They measurably lowered the sound pressure level of their voices. Your retail environments do the exact same thing. Ask yourself, does your store environment automatically cue premium elevated behavior, or does it trigger chaotic, discount-driven behavior? Environments can and will completely override conscious intent.
Finally, Section 5. Shifting the consumer narrative, the actionable climax.
Okay, let's tie all of this psychological and environmental data together into something actionable for your strategy. It really starts with the raw power of expectation. As pioneer psychologist William James and industrialist Henry Ford both understood so well, the self-fulfilling prophecy is completely real. Ford famously said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." In psychology, a prediction, whether it's just in thoughts or spoken words, actually causes itself to become true. Expectation directly creates future reality by altering blood flow, effort, and even immune response.
If we know for a fact that expectations alter performance and that low self-esteem drives consumers right into the arms of inferior products, your brand's messaging has to step in and artificially shift your consumers' internal language. You absolutely must move their internal narrative from a language of loss and insecurity to a language of growth and possibility. You have to convince them they are the ideal version of themselves long before they ever reach the fitting room.
So here's your executive insight to action playbook. First, optimize your retail environments. And yes, this means both physical and digital, to automatically cue premium normative behaviors, just like the library cues silence. Make the space demand respect. Second, aggressively induce a superior self-view in your marketing to break that self-esteem trap we talked about. Make them feel totally worthy of the best. And third, supply the highly symbolic clothing that physically triggers enclothed cognition, giving their brains a psychological permission to upgrade their identity.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought to take back to your boardrooms. If we now know, as a scientific fact, that clothes and environments literally dictate hormone levels, alter cognitive performance, and override deep-seated self-doubt, what cognitive state are you truly providing to your consumer? Think about it. Once you figure that out, you will never just sell a piece of fabric ever again.